Good evening and welcome to Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. The 5:23 regular planning commission meeting. The meeting will now come to order. Tonight's invocation will be given by Ms. Mosayeb, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mr. Flores.
Dear Lord, we thank you for the ability to come before you with this commission. We invite you to be here with us this evening and to grant us wisdom with each case and situation that is presented before us tonight. In your name, we pray.
And now for the Pledge of Allegiance, please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Commissioners, please announce any item you are recusing from due to conflict of interest prior to the item being heard. Secretary, will you please call a roll call planning commission?
Sure. This time I will take the roll call. Commissioner Barrera,
Yes.
you can just state you're present. Commissioner Boado,
Present.
Commissioner Monroy,
Present.
Commissioner Preciado,
Present.
and Commissioner Ramirez.
Present. Planning Secretary, will you please announce discussion item number 5?
Hi, Lloyd Pilchin, City Attorney. I'll take that one. So this is the reorganization, which means that the commission will be appointing a new chair and a new vice chair, just those two positions. The way that I like to do it is more of a shortcut version. Don't worry about nominations. Nomination just means putting a name forward. When we start this item, the chair can just ask who would like to, if anyone would like to speak. And this is the time, it's a public meeting. This is the time for the commissioners to speak freely, say, I think I'd like a turn being a chair, or I think perhaps Commissioner Monroy should have an opportunity, or just discuss it freely. Once you've had a discussion, all we need is someone to make a motion to appoint the chair, a motion to appoint so-and-so to the chair. Since you've all been talking about it, you may have a sense about who's going to prevail on that. If two names come up, one commissioner says, I'd like to do it, another commissioner says, I'd like to do it, then we'll just have two motions. There will be a first motion and then a second motion. And when the first motion is voted on, if the person wins, then the other one's moot. Then the vote is done. It means a majority wanted that person. If the first motion fails on the vote, then we'll move on to the second motion. But the discussing about it is the opportunity to kind of feel out your fellow commissioners, because one of you may suggest someone else and they may say, no, thank you, I'd rather not. So no point making a motion for that person then. So if you'd like to just entertain discussion.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Do any of you guys have interest in pursuing pseudo leadership role here as in commission as chair or vice chair?
I was just going to say a comment regarding that. So for me, I mean, if you want my opinion, as far as I would say lead would be yourself, commissioner, just simply because you're a vice already. So it just makes perfect sense. As far as the others, it could be open to anyone. To be honest, I think any of us would do a good job.
We haven't had the fortune of meeting you guys until today. But have you guys been in any commission prior to this or involved with the city? To any extent that you'd like to share that you think might make you a good chair or vice chair?
I honestly agree with you, actually.
I would defer to you three, actually. I want to give others the opportunity, so between you three.
Yeah, so just introduce myself really quick. Carlos Barrera, Commissioner Barrera. Before this, I did do 4 years in Traffic and Safety Commission. Now came over to planning. Just excited to work with all of you. So I'm open to the possibility of becoming vice chair. Thank you.
We have worked in this commission prior to this meeting for about a year and some change or more, and we've been in other commissions. Are you interested in, you've been given opportunity, but you haven't taken the position before, right?
I have not, but this is a thing. I've been in leadership positions in other boards outside of here and even at work. So to me, it's more, I want to give others the opportunity to have that. That's basically where I stand on that. That's the only reason for it.
Okay. If you'd like to if you'd like to put it in motion, I'll take the position if you'd like.
So I motion to appoint Commissioner Ramirez to the chair position.
I'll second.
Okay, so it looks like we do have a nomination for chairperson. That'd be Chairperson Ramirez. Congratulations. So we have a first and a second. So now we're gonna go ahead and
No,
open up.
I'm sorry, we have a first and a second. Now we do need a roll call vote.
I apologize. Is there any other nominations?
At this time, I'd like to nominate Mr. Barrera for vice chair.
We're still working on the chair.
Oh,
Still
I
on
see.
the chair.
I see.
So was there any other motion before we take a vote on this?
Do we have any other nominations for chairperson? If not, we can go ahead and take a roll call. Okay, seeing no other nominations, then we'll go ahead and take a roll call for the selection of the chairperson. So that would be, the roll call would be Commissioner Barrera,
Yes.
Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Monroy,
Yes.
Commissioner Preciado,
Yes.
and then Commissioner Ramirez, which is now chairperson.
Thank you.
Motion passes. So I will now open the floor for nominations for vice chairperson.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Barrera for vice chair.
I second that motion.
Do we have any other nominations? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and take a roll call. And that is for Commissioner Barrera for vice chairperson. So Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Monroy,
Yes.
Commissioner Preciado,
Yes.
and then Commissioner Barrera
Yes.
should be to, and then Chairperson Ramirez.
Yes.
Motion passes. Congratulations to both.
We can take, if you'd like, we can take a moment to switch chairs.
Yes, please.
Also, can we go ahead and have Commissioner Barrera move over where Ms. Monroy is sitting? They can just swap seats.
Okay, we will now begin with item number 6.1 on the agenda at this time. I will now open the public hearing at 5:34 PM. May we have the report, the staff report, please, Mr. Flores?
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, staff, and public. For the record, my name is Adrian Flores, Associate Planner with the Bell Gardens Planning Division, and this presentation is to discuss conditional use permit number 2024-064 as it relates to the proposed eating establishment with drive-through services at 6365 Florence Place. The applicant, Kendall Williams, representing Cadence Group, is requesting that the Plan Commission, one, determine the project is categorically exempt based on the common sense categories from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to state CEQA guidelines 15061, B3 common sense exemption, and section 15303, new construction or conversion of small structures. And lastly, approve conditional use permit authorizing the development of a 1,392 square foot drive-through coffee shop at 6365 Florence Place in Bell Gardens, California. A little bit on the site. The site is located at 6365 Florence Place. It is located in the C4 heavy commercial zoning designation and has a land use designation of general commercial. The subject site is approximately 19,463 square feet with commercial uses located to the north, south, east, and west of the subject site. The subject site is currently improved with a one-story 3,064 square foot commercial building and parking lot for Eva's Cookery, a Mexican restaurant. The existing restaurant proposes to cease operations prior to the issuance of a demolition permit. The applicant proposes to construct a 1,392 square foot building with a 500 square foot covered patio area, improve the off-street parking area, and install new landscaping at the subject site to accommodate the proposed new coffee shop with drive-through services. Access to the site can be found through egress and egress access via Garfield Avenue. In addition, the project proposes a total of 10 off-street vehicle parking spaces, consisting of 2 off-street ADA compliant spaces and 5 electric vehicle charging capable spaces, 2 bicycle racks to serve a total of 4 bicycles, a new loading zone, new trash enclosure, and a 500 square foot covered patio consisting of 12 non-fixed seats and 3 tables. The 1,392 square foot commercial building would be dedicated to staff only, consisting of the non-customer facing and operational areas back of house, break room, office, 1 unisex employee restroom, and 1 unisex public restroom. Both restrooms will be compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. The applicant proposes a 12-foot tall commercial building consisting of a covered patio dining area and a covered patio area over the drive-through window. A 6-foot high, 8-inch high screening enclosure is proposed to screen the roof-mounted equipment, and the building is designed in a contemporary design. Applicant's CUP request is consistent with the City of Bell Gardens General Plan, a land use element. Policy 3, the city shall promote compatible commercial development to emphasize commercial identity and to enhance the appearance of potential economic vitality and revitalization of the commercial areas in the city. And Policy 5, the city shall provide an environment to stimulate local employment, property values, community stability, and economic vitality of existing local businesses. Additionally, the proposed 1,392 square foot commercial building would provide for conditionally approved drive-through services to be consistent with the development standards contained in Bell Gardens Municipal Code Chapter 9.12 Commercial Zones. It would meet the requirements of Section 9.50.050 of the Bell Gardens Municipal Code, basis for approval or denial of a conditional use permit, And lastly, the project is consistent with the Bell Gardens general plan. Now, it is staff's recommendation that the planning commission determine the project is categorically exempt based on the common sense categories from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to state CEQA guidelines section 15061 B3 common sense exemption and section 15303 new construction or conversions of small structures. And lastly, approve conditional use permit authorizing the development of a 1,392 square foot drive-through coffee shop at 6365 Florence Place, Bell Gardens, California. The applicant is present this evening and would like to share, the applicant is present this evening for any questions you may have, as well as staff and city attorneys. Thank you.
At this time, if the applicant would like to come to the podium to address the planning commission, they may do so.
Good evening, Chairperson Ramirez, Vice Chair Barrera, the commissioners. My name is Cayman Wong. I'm with the Cadence Group. We've enjoyed working with staff for the last few months preparing this application for you, and very excited about being part of the community. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Sure. If that's all you have for comments as of right now. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments at this time?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for attending today's meeting and for being here present. I think overall the project looks good and it would be a very good addition to our city. But I'm not sure this would be a question for staff or for you, Mr. Whether the Evas, do we know why it's currently being demolished or why it will be?
I can answer some of that. The land is actually owned by the restaurant group, and the restaurant group has decided to lease the land to the coffee shop as opposed to continuing operations. So it's not that they're being evicted or anything like that. They are the landowners.
Okay, thank you for that. I just want to clarify just so that it won't seem like if we are somehow pushing these people out of their own.
No, understood. It's their decision.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
That's a great question. I have the same. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. This is the
Sure.
typical questions that's always asked, right? As far as employees.
Yes.
Do you have a number in place or percentage as far as the Bell Gardens residents?
It's a
Sorry.
great question. Always tries to look to hire locally. On every shift, we have between 5 and 6, and there should be employee, or we call them partners, and we should have anywhere between 3 to 4 shift groups with a manager. And so anywhere between could possibly employ anywhere between 15 to 25 people.
Thank you very much for that. Appreciate you.
Just another quick question. Do we know what hours the place will be operating?
Currently, we're asking for 24/7, but they usually don't open that way. It just depends. So they'll open maybe with limited hours at first and then see how it goes. If it's doing very well, then they will open for that. They ask for that for flexibility. But currently, we most of them open between 5 a.m. and no later than usually 9 p.m.
Oh, thank you.
Vice Chairperson Barrera, this is Associate Planner Adrian Flores. We do have a condition identified in the conditions of approval. So for the hours of operation for the walk-up window would be 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Sundays, and the drive-through services would be 24/7.
Thank you, Adrian.
I do have a question regarding Eva's restaurant. How many employees does that restaurant currently employ?
6.
That's cooks, servers, everything?
Yes.
And then a follow-up question for that. Out of these 6 employees, are any of them being considered or been offered any kind of position in the future for the place that's going to be opening up, or that's not a topic?
Obviously, we haven't gotten that far yet, but applications will be taken by obviously and allowed by anybody that would want to put in that application. And those applications can easily be put towards the manager, you know, whether it be a higher priority or not. That's something that we could definitely discuss.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, one more. This is hypothetical as well, right?
Sure.
So as far as any city events or any fairs, do you plan or your corporation or company plan to participate in that?
It's a good question. Being part of the community is always important. The event space that you could utilize in this particular case would be the patio. And the managers are always, district managers and area managers are always looking to be part of that community. So it is definitely something that would be considered or encouraged.
Thank you very much.
If that concludes the questions or comments, we will now open public comment for this item. Secretary, please announce the instructions for public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on the public hearing item number 6.1. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker's written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from the members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now. Chairperson, it looks like there's nobody here that would like to speak on this item. I can go ahead and see if there's anybody in the chat line that would like to speak on this item. If so, you can go ahead and press *6 to unmute yourself if there's anyone in the chat line wishing to speak on this item. And it looks like we do not have anybody in the chat line wishing to speak. And also for the record, I did want to mention that we did receive one written comment pertaining to this item, and it was distributed to the planning commissioners.
If there are no objections by the Planning Commission, I will close public participation. If there's no additional questions or comments by Planning Commission, I will close the public hearing at 5:48 p.m. May I have a motion to approve staff's recommendation as noted in the staff report and presentation?
Offers a motion.
You can just say motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I second that.
Planning Secretary, can you please conduct the roll call vote?
Sure. Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Monroy,
Yes.
Commissioner Preciado,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Barrera,
Yes.
and Chairperson Ramirez.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
And good evening, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. This is Stephen Jones, City Planner. The Commission's final actions tonight are appealable by interested parties until Thursday, March 6th, 5:00 p.m. in this office.
We will now begin with item number 6.2 on the agenda. At this time, I will open the public hearing at 5:49 p.m. May we have a staff report, please, Ms. Mosayed?
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, fellow staff, and public. For the record, my name is Mona Mosayeb, Associate Planner with the Bell Gardens Planning Division, and this presentation is to discuss Conditional Use Permit and Development Agreement 2024-048 as it relates to the city and the Department of Cannabis Control storefront retail license request at 6638 Eastern Avenue. The applicant, Floral Hospitality Group LLC, is requesting the Planning Commission to, firstly, determine the project is categorically exempt based on the common sense categories from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to the state CEQA guidelines section 15061B3, common sense exemption, and section 15301, existing facilities. Secondly, approve a conditional use permit authorizing a cannabis retail use in an existing commercial structure at the subject site. And thirdly, recommend to the City Council approval of an ordinance to enter into and execute a development agreement with the applicant and property owner as prepared by staff to vest certain development rights in exchange for public benefits for up to 10 years. The subject site is located at 6638 Eastern Avenue, with the assessor parcel number denoted in the slide before you. The site is zoned mixed use and has a land use designation of mixed use. The subject site is 6,286 square feet with the following surrounding uses: mixed use to the north, east, and west, and C4, that is heavy commercial, zone on the south, with the Los Jardines Shopping Center. Current site conditions reflect a commercial structure primed for redevelopment. As noted in a previous slide, the site is surrounded by commercial uses, as shown in the images before you, with El Pescador Restaurant to the west, Bell Gardens Marketplace to the southwest, Los Jardines Shopping Center to the south. The applicant proposes a 3,782 square foot cannabis retail storefront. The retail area is 1,588 square feet, and the back end for staff access only is 2,194 square feet. Included in the back end space are the vault, intake and processing of merchandise, staff restroom, security office, camera room, dispatch break room, meeting room, media room, and the manager's office. The applicant proposes improvements to the site that include 6 newly striped parking spaces, including 2 electric vehicle capable spaces, 1 ADA compliant space, 1 loading space, and 16 bike parking spaces, 12 of which are substitutes for 3 automobile parking spaces. Access to the site is via a 2-way approach located on Lubeck Street. The applicant proposes a contemporary design throughout, including improvements to the exterior appearance as a part of their tenant improvement, as shown in these elevation renderings. If approved, operating standards and conditions of approval would address issues such as, but not limited to, maintenance of the subject site in a neat and orderly manner, debris and graffiti to be removed in a timely manner, prohibition of on-site consumption of cannabis and cannabis products, at least 2 security guards during operating hours. Also included, employees must be of at least 21 years of age, patrons must be of at least 21 years in age or 18 years with medical recommendation. The applicant is requesting opening hours of 8 a.m. However, staff has proposed restricted hours of 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. with the last delivery to be placed by 9 p.m. to be consistent with all previously approved cannabis retail storefront applications through condition of approval number 21. or 23. My apologies. Staff and the applicant have negotiated the terms of the development agreement, also referred to as DA. Staff recommends approval of the DA contained within the report materials that would provide an initial 5-year term, subject to an option to extend for another 5 years for a total of 10 years. In return, the applicant would provide an annual community benefit in the amount of $100,000 per year, renewed every January. And the applicant would also be required to pay a quarterly community benefit equal to 7% of gross receipts. 80% of all community benefits would be dedicated towards the city's youth and educational programming and for the city's housing programs. The Planning Commission may recommend that the City Council approve the DA as is, recommend approval but with different terms than presented by staff, or recommend disapproval of the DA. Staff's analysis shows that the applicant's CUP request is consistent with the City of Bell Gardens general plan. Land Use Policy 3, the city shall promote compatible commercial development to emphasize commercial identity and to enhance the appearance and potential economic vitality and revitalization of the commercial areas in the city. And Land Use Policy 5, the city shall provide an environment to stimulate local employment, property values, community stability, and the economic vitality of existing local businesses. As part of its analysis, staff reviews for consistency to the general plan and compliance to the Bell Gardens Municipal Code. The proposal before you today is consistent with the Bell Gardens Chapter 9.12 Commercial Zones. It does meet the requirements of Section 9.50.050, basis for approval or denial of a CUP, and it is consistent with the standards of Section 9.20.160 of the Bell Gardens Municipal Code as it relates to cannabis retail conditional use permits. The recommendation before you this evening is requesting that the Planning Commission to determine the project categorically exempt based on the common sense categories, approve a conditional use permit authorizing a cannabis retail use in an existing commercial structure at the subject site, and recommend to City Council approval of an ordinance to enter into and execute a development agreement with the applicant and property owner as prepared by staff to vest certain interest rights in exchange for public benefits for up to 10 years. The applicant is present this evening and would like to share a few words during the public hearing testimony. Staff, city attorney, and applicant are open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, if the applicant would like to come to the podium to address the Planning Commission, they may do so.
Nurse, can you hear me okay? I'm Noelle France. I'm the founder and CEO of Mecca Dispensaries and the Mecca brand. I didn't prepare a slideshow for you this evening, but I just wanted to come and introduce myself personally. I own 2 retail storefronts in the city of Los Angeles, as well as distribution, manufacturing, and cultivation facilities. While I've had the privilege of serving hundreds of thousands of customers since 2012, my focus has always been on quality over quantity. Maintaining fewer locations has allowed me to build a strong foundation, perfect operations, and provide exceptional service and products with 0 compliance infractions. And now, with over a decade of experience, I'm excited to expand thoughtfully and bring that same level of care and expertise to this community. At Mecca, our staff, customers, and visitors adhere to a strict code of conduct that goes above and beyond state regulations. We maintain a 0 tolerance policy for inappropriate behavior, refuse service to anyone under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and we strictly prohibit loitering or on-site consumption. Safety and security are our top priorities. Our comprehensive security plan integrates multiple layers of protection, balancing technology, trained personnel, and robust physical design. Licensed and armed guards monitor the premises. They manage entry points and respond to incidents. Our staff is trained in security protocols such as recognizing suspicious behavior, handling emergencies, and ensuring regulatory compliance. Our back office is restricted with limited access, and cash pickups are conducted 2 to 3 times per week at varying times. The store is equipped with intrusion and motion sensors, panic buttons, and 24-hour high-definition surveillance cameras with 90-day storage. We've also worked with law enforcement to provide exterior camera footage that helps reduce and deter crime, and we have proudly supported the Los Angeles Police Foundation. Our physical design elements include controlled entry points, lighting, parking lot fencing, bollards, and reinforced walls and doors with tamper-proof materials. The store layout maximizes visibility and minimizes blind spots. Customers are personally accompanied from entry to exit, providing both personalized service and an added layer of security. Mecca is committed to being a proactive community partner. We work alongside local residents and businesses to enhance public safety, cleaning up graffiti, picking up trash, removing weeds, and even assisting elderly customers to their vehicles. We also use state-of-the-art odor mitigation systems and ensure all prepackaged products are sealed. Our typical customer is not what you'd expect. 42% are between 30 to 45 years old, 18% are 46 to 60, 10% are 61 to 75, and 2% are over 76. Each store has a designated neighborhood liaison with posted contact information, and most days you will find me personally there interacting with customers. And we even have letters of recommendation from our local Los Angeles Neighborhood Council. We anticipate creating 20 to 30 new jobs, with the vast majority hired directly from the city of Bell Gardens. Currently, 63% of our workforce is Hispanic, with 71% in upper management currently. We work with the United Food and Commercial Workers Union and have a signed labor peace agreement. Our employees receive benefits, a living wage, and ongoing training on product knowledge, dosage, and customer service. Upon CUP approval, we will implement bilingual community outreach efforts, including job fairs, mailers, open houses. These efforts will focus on cannabis education, providing residents with the opportunity to learn more about the industry and its benefits. We offer a wide range of products, including low THC and non-psychoactive options such as balms, topicals, sugar-free gummies, providing natural alternatives for managing conditions like insomnia, nerve pain, and muscle discomfort, options we believe will be well received by your residents. Mecca will also serve as an anchor for economic activity. Our customers will support local businesses like gas stations, restaurants, retail outlets, contributing to city tax revenues. We are committed to collaborating with local businesses through joint promotions and charitable partnerships. As a mother of 2 young boys, I inherently understand the sensitivity surrounding our business. I am committed to operating responsibly, adhering to strict state marketing and packaging guidelines that prohibit targeting children. Mecca also maintains a subtle, non-intrusive aesthetic and utilizes age gating for all digital marketing efforts. I recognize that cannabis can be a sensitive topic in Bell Gardens, but I welcome the opportunity to change that perception. I am dedicated to being a model operator, prioritizing the safety and well-being of our community, customers, and staff. And it is for all of these reasons that I respectfully request CUP approval. Thank you. I can take any questions.
I do have one question.
Sure.
And it's regarding with the time as far as opening. I think
Yes.
you're requesting 8 compared
Yes.
to what's recommended 10 a.m.
Yes.
What's the reason for that?
Well, the state allows 6 a.m., but I really don't want to miss out on that commuter morning traffic. I think the city would benefit from it as well. And especially at that location in particular, I feel like we're close to the 710. We're going to get a lot of commuters. And if we miss that window, customers will either go to another dispensary or they'll come back at rush hour. And in that area at 5 o'clock, the traffic, I don't know the residents would appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'll go next. First, thank you for attending the meeting and for
You're
being
welcome.
present here.
Thank you for having me.
Under that agenda item, I know there was the parking exception. Not sure if this is more for staff or for you, but I believe the required amount is 10, but at this time, only 6 are gonna be possible. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But what was the reason for that decision?
Mona Mosayeb, Associate Planner. The site existing had the 6 spaces, but they were non-conforming spaces. We worked with the applicant to ensure that everything on the site would be compliant. So the parking spaces proposed are compliant. What we did was we could not offer the applicant a variance because the site is not unique or does not experience any hardship in terms of its location or size or topography, anything of that nature. However, the Bell Gardens Municipal Code allows certain exceptions that if replacements, for example, in this instance, the applicant utilized a replacement of bicycle parking in lieu of vehicular parking, which is allowed by municipal code. There was an alternative option that was not available for them, and the applicant wanted to ensure applicants had access to park whichever kind of vehicle they were utilizing. In this instance, they utilized a code that will allow for bike space parking to replace vehicular parking. So we were trying to ensure full compliance with an existing site that this is what it would accommodate. And the applicant is actually making these improvements without even us requesting this of them.
Thank you.
I do have a question as well. What are the methods of authenticating ID at your stores?
Well, we have an inventory team and they follow the track and trace system that we are guided by the state for doing so. We barcode everything.
Sorry, I was referring to the customers themselves.
Oh, there's an ID scanner everywhere. You cannot enter the premises without being checked in.
One more question.
Yeah.
Are your other Mecca stores in similar neighborhoods / communities to Bell Gardens?
They are. I'm pretty familiar with having to change the stigma and the neighborhood and the residents. So yes, I'm used to going and introducing myself to the neighbors. And then once we're there and they realize we're actually improving the neighborhood, they're happy to have us.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. You referenced the jobs as living wage jobs. What are the rates as to which you start your employees?
Depending on their experience, usually 18 to 21.
And are
Per
these going to be union jobs?
Yes. Well, if they opt in, if they would like to do so.
You provided the percentage of customers that were 30 to 40 and above. What were 18 to 30?
Well, I didn't look that up, but I know from my experience that most of our customers are older.
This question is for staff. Regarding the hours of operation, what was the reasoning for 10 a.m. to be the earliest opening hours for the other applicants?
Mona Mosayeb, Associate Planner. Consistency and congruency with all the other previously approved CUPs and development agreements. Staff took that position previously. We felt that we should honor that. It is at the discretion of the Planning Commission to make any other sort of determination should they like, as stated previously. So you have options. You can approve as is, approve with modifications to the conditions of approval, or deny. So that discretion is left to the Planning Commission.
I guess let me rephrase the question. The question was more along the lines of prior to the first applicant being approved with certain parameters, the decision to do 10 in the morning, what was it based off of? Prior to the first applicant saying, hey, we're gonna do from 10 in the morning.
We're gonna have our
Based off
city
of, we
attorney.
don't want students to walk to school and seeing this business open. Is that some of the reasoning, or what was the reasoning?
Hello, I'm McAvoy with the City Attorney's Office. At the time that the applications were first being submitted, the city did do a study in terms of hours that other dispensaries were using in the local vicinity. All of the neighboring vicinities that do allow cannabis retail And so this, although there are some differences, this was fairly similar to what we're seeing in terms of trends in other jurisdictions.
In Los Angeles, it's 6 a.m.
Thank you. Any other questions by the commissioners or comments?
Yeah, I have one more question. So I saw ordinance number 952. It states Flora Hospitality Group and the James N. Tate III Trust. So guess what is the purpose behind having like a family trust behind the ordinance?
Mona, go ahead. Paloma.
Paloma McAvoy with the city attorney's office. So the trust is the landowner in this particular instance, and Flora Hospitality Group is the applicant.
Thank you for that clarification.
Have you conducted a third-party security audit to confirm that there are no unintentional blind spots in the interior or exterior surveillance coverage?
No, but we do before we open. We have a team that we always use for every location that will come in, test the cameras.
You.
It's important.
One more question. I know that near that area we have I believe it's Marlowe Park. Are we sure that it's outside of the radius from the 600 feet that is required?
Mona Mosaib, Associate Planner. In our analysis and staff's analysis for any cannabis item, amongst the very first things we do is to measure out the distance, and the applicant is also required to submit a sensitive use radius map that is prepared by surveyors and radius experts. It is not within the 600 feet. Otherwise, the applicant would be automatically disqualified.
Do we know the footage from the 600 after, how much it is?
I can look that up for you, but that's not, that detail is not up, but if you wait a moment, I can look that up for you.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, question for staff, an as is vote would vote towards keeping the standard of 10 in the morning opening time, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners?
Not on my end.
We'll now open the public comments for this item. Secretary, please announce the instructions for the public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on public hearing item number 6.2. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now. Chairperson, it looks like we did not receive any comment cards for this item. I can go ahead and see if there's anyone in the chat line wishing to speak on this item. If there is anyone in the chat line, you may go ahead and press *6 to unmute yourself at this time. And it doesn't look like we have anyone in the chat line wishing to speak on this item.
Point of order. Mona Mosaib, Associate Planner. Commissioner, the distance is 697 feet as noted in the staff report.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barrera, if I could also raise Paloma McAvoy with City Attorney's Office. When the applicants do apply, the city requires a radius map of 600 feet from the site as well as 1,500 feet. So that's to allow the city to get kind of a better idea of what is going on beyond the 600-foot buffering.
Thank you.
If there are no objections to the planning commission, I will close public participation. Lloyd, if you'd have any words for us pertaining to this item?
Hi, Lloyd Pilchin, City Attorney. Since we have some new planning commissioners with us tonight, I just thought I'd give a quick explanation of what a development agreement is and what a conditional use permit is. So, because you'll see these coming up in other items. So the conditional use permit, that's a very common permit that comes before the planning commission. The coffee shop item that we had before, that was a conditional use permit. The main finding for a conditional use permit, it's all about compatibility with surrounding uses. So commercial zone might allow a restaurant, but it might be a noisy restaurant and there may be a quiet neighborhood right behind it. You might find that a noisy like nightclub, even though it's allowed by zoning, you might find that it doesn't deserve a conditional use permit approval because of compatibility. Okay, that's what a CUP is. A development agreement is a very unique animal. It's a contract and it can only be approved. It can be approved only by the city council. So on that item, you'll notice that the recommended motion is to recommend approval to the city council. After here, it will go to the city council. The contract, the development agreement, allows for negotiated terms between the city and the applicant. So in this case, the applicant is giving community benefits. The planning staff described that it's monetary payments. Most businesses don't make monetary payments to the city, like the coffee shop. They don't make monetary payments. But with the development agreement, you can negotiate that. And what does the applicant get? They're getting 10 years, which is a good long time for an entitlement. So it's a negotiation. And like I say, it's with this side of the CUP is up for approval by the planning commission, but the development agreement will merely be a recommendation. Thank you.
I do have one thing, and I don't know if you could cover that, as far as, because there's a miscommunication as well with folks as far as they feel that the planning commission is the one that approves the number of dispensaries. Could you actually touch on that a little bit?
Paloma McAvoy with the City Attorney's Office. So the way that Bell Gardens ordinance is written, there's not a cap on the number of dispensaries. As Mr. Pilchin explained, it's a conditional use permit and the planning commission has to come up with certain findings. If in fact the planning commission were to recommend or were to deny a CUP, that decision is appealable to the city council. However, if the city planning commission wanted to deny it, the process would be to instruct staff and city attorney to come back with a resolution denying the CUP, and also recommending disapproval of the DA. And so it's as Mr. Pilchin said, there are a number of findings associated with a conditional use permit. And so staff's recommendation tonight is to approve it based on those findings. However, if in your own independent judgment, you have rationale to recommend denial, the city planning commission is able to provide us with that direction. Similarly, as the applicant requested a longer, bigger, earlier starting time to be able to open and operate, the planning commission has the option to stay with staff's recommendation and keep the hours as is, or alternatively recommend or approve the CUP and recommend approval of the DA with those altered hours.
Appreciate you. Thank you very much. Just because it seems like it comes up all the time. Like I know the answer to it, but so residents and others could actually.
Sure. No, absolutely.
Thanks.
I know it's a complicated process.
Thank
so-
you.
Paloma, can you also touch on the maximum 7 regulatory permits?
Yes. So the additional question, so as we discussed the CUP, there are certain findings that need to be made. In addition, all cannabis retail operators need to get a business regulatory permit. That's a process that's overseen by the police department. And after the initial ordinance was approved, it was amended by the city council to permit a maximum of 7 permits to be pulled. So in all reality, and thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Romo. In all reality, there would only be a maximum of 7 dispensaries within the city right now. For those of you who are new, there are 4 applicants that have been approved, meaning there's only 3 more potential applicants that could be approved and obtain a CUP. However, I'm sorry, business regulatory permit. But in order to get that business regulatory permit, there are a number of steps that need to be taken. 1, they need to be approved for the CUP. 2, they need to execute the development agreement and then go to get their business regulatory permit.
If there are no additional questions or comments by the planning commission, I would close public hearing at 6:21 PM. May I have a motion to approve staff's recommendation as noted in the staff report and presentation?
Motion to approve.
I second that motion.
Planning Secretary, can you please conduct a roll call vote?
Sure. Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Monroy,
Abstain.
Commissioner Preciado,
No.
Vice Chairperson Barrera,
Yes.
and Chairperson Ramirez.
Approve. Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passed.
Yes, motion passes.
We'll now begin with item number 6.3 on the agenda at this time. I will open the public hearing at 6:22 PM. May we have a staff report, please, Mr. Flores?
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, staff, and public. For the record, my name is Adrian Flores, Associate Planner with the Bow Gardens Planning Division. And this presentation is to discuss Conditional Use Permit and Development Agreement 2024-015 as it relates to the City and Department of Cannabis Control storefront retail license request at 6300 Gage Avenue. The applicant, Bow Gardens ZG Associates LLC, also known as Zen Garden, is requesting that the Plan Commission determine the project is category exempt based on the common sense categories from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to State CEQA Guidelines Section 15061, B3 Common Sense Exemption, and Section 15301 Existing Facilities, and approve conditional use permit authorizing a cannabis retail use in an existing commercial structure at the subject site. And lastly, recommend to the City Council approval of an ordinance to enter and execute a development agreement with the applicant and property owner as prepared by staff to vest certain development rights in exchange for public benefits for up to 10 years. Now, a little bit on the site is located at 6300 Gage Avenue. It is zoned mixed use and has a land use designation of mixed use. The subject site is approximately 11,410 square feet in size. Now, located north of the subject site is the City of Commerce. And located to the west of the subject site is R3, heavy density residential zone. Located to the east and south is Zone OS, Open Space and Parks Zone, where nurseries are located. The subject site is currently improved with a one-story, 2,572 square foot commercial building with 2 commercial units. Unit A is approximately 1,060 square feet and is occupied by an existing food market. Unit B is approximately 1,512 square feet, and according to the city business license records, it was occupied by a self-service laundry business from 2002 until August 2018 and is now currently vacant. Current site conditions show structures prime for revitalization. Using the same angles as the photos in the previous slide, the applicant proposes a contemporary design as part of their tenant improvement, as shown in these elevation renderings. They will also be improving the food market adjacent to the proposed cannabis retail storefront. The applicant proposes tenant improvements to an existing 1,512 square foot unit within an existing 272 square foot building. Access to the site can be found through an egress and egress access way via Darwa Avenue and a one-way access way ingress via Darwa Avenue and egress via Gage Avenue. In addition, the project proposes a new parking lot layout inclusive of a total of 6 new parking stalls, including 1 ADA compliant space, 2 electric vehicle charging capable spaces, 8 bicycle parking spaces, and a new loading space. Within the suite, approximately 1,512 square feet would be dedicated to retail use. Access to the retail storefront would be made from the north side of the building facing Gage Avenue. The 1,512 square feet retail space would be inclusive of 376 square foot commercial accessible retail area, a 1,335 square foot employee space comprised of a cannabis storage room, manager's office, secured inventory room, break room, and 1 unisex employee restroom. If approved, conditions of approval would address issues such as, but not limited to, operation and maintenance of the site, security, age restriction, and hours of operations. Staff and the applicant have negotiated the terms of development agreement. Staff recommends approval of the development agreement contained within the report materials that would provide vested development rights for an initial 5-year term, subject to an option to extend for another 5 years for a total of 10 years. In return, the applicant would provide an annual community benefit in the amount of $100,000 per year, renewed every January. And the applicant would also be required to pay a quarterly community benefit equal up to 7% of gross receipts. Proposed development agreement dedications would dedicate 80% of all community benefits towards the city's youth educational programming and for the city's housing programs. Applicant's CUP request is consistent with the City of Bell Gardens. Oh, sorry.
Oh, goodness. And then I just said, hey, I thought I'm gonna have a piece. And then I just said,
The Planning Commission may recommend that the City Council approve the DA, 1, as is. 2, recommend approval but with different quarterly community benefit rate and or provide recommendations on other terms, or recommend disapproval of the DA. Applicant's CUP request is consistent with the City of Bell Gardens General Plan's Land Use Element Policy 3 and 5. Policy 3 focus on the city shall promote compatible commercial development to emphasize commercial identity and to enhance the appearance and potential economic vitality and revitalization of the commercial areas in the city. Land Use Policy 5, the city shall provide an environment to stimulate local employment, property values, community stability, and economic vitality of existing local businesses. Additionally, the project meets the requirements in section 9.50.050 of the Bell Gardens Municipal Code, basis for approval or denial of a conditional use permit. And the project meets the requirements of section 9.20.160 of the Bell Gardens Municipal Code, cannabis retail conditional use. And lastly, the proposed 1,512 square feet retail space would provide for conditionally approved retail sales on site in the building proposed to be consistent with the development standards contained in Bell Gardens and Municipal Code, Chapter 9.12 Commercial Zones. Now, the staff's recommendation that the Planning Commission determine the project categorically exempt based on the common sense categories from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to state CEQA guidelines. 2, approve conditional use permit authorizing a cannabis retail use in a 1,512 square foot existing commercial structure to be improved at the subject site. And lastly, recommend to the City Council approval of an ordinance to enter and execute a development agreement as prepared by staff to establish certain development rights in exchange for public benefits for up to 10 years. The applicant is present this evening and would like to share a prepared presentation during the public hearing testimony. Staff, city attorney, and as well as the applicant are open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, if the applicant would like to come to the podium to address the planning commission, they may do so.
Good evening, staff and commissioners, and congratulations, Carlos Barrera and Commissioner Ernesto for being chosen today. So my name is Alejandro Calleres. I'm the CEO of Zen Gardens BG. I grew up in the area. I actually grew up on Gage in Avalon, Los Angeles, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to put a business in the same street I grew up in. I currently operate 2 stores in the city of Los Angeles and also one in Calexico, California. My partner, Corey, he also operates in Northern California, Sacramento, and he should be on the line in case you guys have any questions for him as well. So our project overview, Zen Gardens is designated by state-of-the-art retail cannabis dispensary. Our focus is on compliance, security, and community integration. Some of key features of our dispensary include advanced security systems, industry-leading odor control solutions, and modern touchscreen selection experiences for our customers. Our objective is to create a safe, efficient, professional environment for cannabis sales in the city of Bell Gardens. Our facility layout and operations. Our dispensary is designated for both efficiency and security with a clear separation between customers and operational areas. The customer areas include secure reception and ID check for controlled access, customer sales floor, point of sale stations, and an ATM area for convenient transactions. Restricted and back of house areas include dedicated spaces for cannabis storage, administrative office, employees break room, and comprehensive security system rooms to ensure safety and compliance. Operational procedures include strict inventory controls, training programs, and metric integrations for state tracking compliances. Parking accessibility. Accessibility is a key component for our design. We provide a total of 7 parking stalls, including on an ADA compliant space, ensuring accessibility for all customers. Additionally, we are installing 2 EV charging stations to promote sustainability and provide 8 bicycle parking stations to encourage alternative transportations. Our security plan. Security is our top priority, and we have developed a robust plan to ensure a safe and compliant operation. Our security measures include 24/7 high-definition surveillance, strict ID verification at entry points, and on-site security personnel during business hours. Additionally, our facility will have a robust alarm system and emergency response protocols in place. We are also aware of concerns regarding proximity to local high school. While we are fully compliant with the regulations of local located over 600 feet away, we recognize our responsibility to ensure that no one under the age of 21 gains access to our facility. Our security team is well trained to identify minors and to prevent loitering around our area, our premises. Ensuring full compliance with the city and state regulations as well. I know in some areas there've been some concerns about lighting. So we did a whole lighting plan and safety measures since we do have a nursery next to us. To further enhance our security, our facility will be featured exterior lighting and exterior LED lighting for improved visibility. Security lights will be installed at all access points at parking lot. Pedestrian walkways will be well lit and deter any unwanted activity. We are committed to meeting or exceeding city lighting standards to ensure a safe environment for both customers and the surrounding community. our exterior design enhancement, a modern living storefront and essentials for the business. And our exterior design updates include modernized stucco and stone finish, new signage, and enhanced entryways with an upgrade storefront and security doors. This improvement will not only enhance our facility aesthetics appeal, but also align with the city's urban development and bring a business that's currently closed back into flourish. Okay, our commitment to compliance and community engagement is a fundamental part of our business model. We will adhere strictly to local and state cannabis regulations, undergo routine inspections and audits to ensure continued compliance beyond regulations. We aim to be a positive force in the City of Bell Gardens community by creating local job opportunities, by prioritizing the hiring of Bell Garden residents. We are committed to supporting youth sports programs by donating $5,000 per year and providing paid volunteer hours to initiatives like Boxing for Kids LA. We drafted the MOU and it's ready to be executed upon us getting the approval. Additionally, we are dedicated to promoting the arts through Southeast Leadership Networks, also within 5,000 annual commitment, participating also in the community volunteer efforts and corporate memberships, including Southeast Los Angeles Kiwanis Club. In conclusion to our project aligns with the city's zoning planning guidelines, and we have taken every necessary step to ensure secure, compliant, and community-friendly operations with comprehensive security, state-of-the-art odor control, and strong, valuable additions to Bell Gardens. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to working with you guys. Any questions?
We will now move to commissioner questions or comments. Do any commissioners have any questions or comments?
I do, and you kind of mentioned this already, right? But to me, a concern was high school students. Can you elaborate a little bit more as far as what you plan to do? I know you
So-
touched on it, but
So when you look at our business, it's just gonna have a sign. There's no cannabis signage. You won't see you can't see into the business. We protect all that, and we'll always have security on the outside. So for the most part, if anyone that comes into surrounding areas has to look 21, or else the security won't let them around our parking lot.
and my other question as well, lighting, right? Lighting's important, but
Yeah.
also there was I remember when we were part of one of the first approvals, lighting was an issue as well
Mhm.
because you have residents that live close by and the lighting could affect them as far as hit their windows when they go to sleep, nuisance as well. So-
Yeah, so we sent in a couple of options of the lighting we're gonna use. It should be in our plans already. But also our lighting will be pointed down to when it's facing the residential areas. But on the most where there's no people like the nursery, we'll probably try to cover more just in case someone tries to be hiding in those areas for security purposes.
And then last question, security is going to be inside, outside, or
Security would be in the outside, that is, we would be protecting the perimeter.
okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
How many jobs do you presume to be creating?
So for the most part, we're looking into 20 to 30.
And same as last time, union jobs as well?
We have in the certain locations, we also, if the employees would like to, we do make deals with the unions.
Okay, and it's not in your other locations, it's something, I mean, I'm sure you guys maybe don't push that on them, but it isn't something you guys try to get them to not do? It's
No,
just up
no,
to
if
them?
it's brought up to us, we obviously coordinate with the staff. If that's what they want to do, we allow it to work with the unions and
This is more of a question for staff. On the report, it said that 21 and older, but to 18 and older if you have a medical. Is that consistent with all the other applicants?
Paloma McAvoy with City Attorney's Office. So state law permits recreational use at 21 years of age, but 18 years of age with medical recommendations.
Thank you.
Hi, first, thank you for being here today. I guess I'll start off first with the location of the site. I know that there's a sensitive area right across the street, which is the Iglesia del Cuerpo de Cristo.
Yeah.
Is this not considered a school?
Associate Planning here, Adrian Flores. So we did do a study and survey of the surrounding sensitive uses, and this church is not identified as a sensitive use. There's no school identified in the church. Not that I was identified under the study.
Okay. And I know it was pointed out that there's around that area, we do have more sensitive areas, which would be the high school, as you mentioned. We have Cesar Chavez, which is an elementary school. We have another church within the 600-foot radius. And then just all the residential homes around.
So in one of our locations, we do share the parking lot with a church, and we've been there for 15 years, so we coexist. I guess obviously they were against it in the beginning, but now we have worked together for 15 years, share the center parking lot. So with this church, we did also contact them and ask them if they had any questions to call me, anything. No one has reached out at the moment. So we are doing our due diligence to make sure we're good with everyone in our surroundings.
Thank you. But I'm just curious to see how the other commissioners feel regarding these sensitive areas around the project site.
That's a great question. Sunday school is not considered any type of school, or is that not even, was that question asked, or can we elaborate on that?
Paloma McAvoy with City Attorney's Office. So schools have a very specific definition about being regulated by the State Department of Education and offering K through 12 services. So a little different than Sunday school.
Given the site's proximity to BGHS, what additional safeguards will you implement beyond the mandated 600-foot buffer to ensure youth are not indirectly impacted by your business? After all, it is around the corner.
So we'll have monitoring, obviously our security guard at all times, and if they don't identify a minor, they will not let them walk into our parking lot area. And we also do not advertise anything towards kids or children or anyone under the age of 18. And obviously, when you walk through our business, you're just going to look like any other business. You can't see into the business. You want to be able to see what we sell there. So at any time, we always will do our due diligence. Also, we need to also address certain things that come up during our time. We'll do it as well to prevent that. But for the most part, we've been pretty successful in a lot of other areas where school kids do walk home through there, and they just keep going, and security takes care of it if they ever walk towards our parking lot, towards our place. Make sure you don't get close to the door.
How will you guarantee compliance with odor mitigation requirements, and what mechanisms are in place for real-time monitoring and addressing odor complaints from the community?
So for the most part, all the product that we have on the stores already comes really packaged, so the odor is very limited on that. But we do still add can filters, activate carbon system as it's an industry standard, and we put them in the ceiling. And we also add an air changeover system to ensure complete air replacement every 20 minutes. So that will circulate the air within the building, and you will not get any smell. Not even if you walk into a store, you won't be able to smell anything.
I have another question, just to make sure. That storefront, there's gonna be a liquor there or market still, or?
Currently, we haven't, I mean, they're gonna stay there. We're just gonna fix the whole building from them. If they want to continue operating, I mean, that's on them, but so we know they are gonna be there.
Okay.
Just one more question. I know you mentioned that one of your previous stores is next to a church and you've worked with them, but have any of them ever been by two schools or are surrounded by residential areas?
Yes, currently, the one that we have in South Central Los Angeles, it's just right on Normandy and 59th Street, and all that's residential. And there's a school where kids walk through, but again, the outside just has a regular sign like any other business. Kids keep on walking. Our security is outside at all times, so they don't approach the door at all. And then the neighboring people that live around the area, no complaints. A lot of them are basically our customers that keep us alive in that area.
Thank you.
Can staff pull up a Google image of that location so that we can see what something like that would look like when it's close to schools and churches?
$6,300. Gage.
I'm sorry, Chairperson, did you want to see the existing location or the
Correct,
proposed
the
location?
existing location.
Existing location?
Oh, the one where I'm talking about, it's 5909. Normandy. Los Angeles, California. South Normandy, South Normandy.
Can you confirm that this is the location?
Yes, right there. So you have parks. You're right next to the surrounding area there. School, that side.
How many security guards will be present during operating
Two.
hours?
2. One on the inside, one on the outside.
Commissioners, if I may, Corey Travis, here with Zen Garden as well. The location that Alex was referring to is our store here in Northern California. If you want to look up that address, it's 2201 Northgate Boulevard. This is a store where we are adjacent to church. We're nearby parks, we're nearby schools. We've been there for nearly 15 years. And these businesses are able to coexist with lots of different types of uses. We are adjacent a large multi-unit apartment complex that has families, that has all types of different clientele. And part of the evolution that we saw, at least here in Sacramento, which started a lot of the land use regulations here in cannabis, was there was initial aversion to having these in commercial areas with residential. And they said, okay, well, if it's a cannabis store, we want to put it in an industrial area, far away from everything. And then the customers and the families and the folks who were going to those stores realized that this is just like any other retail product. It's got increased security, and it's actually helpful for the neighborhood. So they wanted to start bringing them back to the retail areas. I think that the location on Gage Street is a perfect example of a mixed use area. Yes, there are things that we're cognizant of. Having a school over 600 feet away, we're aware of it. And, for us to coexist in an environment, in an area long term, we need to be aware of the types of customers that we're servicing. Yes, those students would need to come across the street around a couple of blocks, but we don't cater to those types of customers. And in fact, our stores are often not attractive to the younger clientele because we don't carry lower priced products that have really high THC, which is sort of a recipe to bring in folks who are maybe looking to not for the medical benefits and so forth. So in addition to not marketing to those groups, we also frankly just aren't attractive to them.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions or comments at this time?
I do. I have one more question. You mentioned that your storefront does not provide any sort of marketing material specifically towards younger crowds. What are your methods of marketing? Is it digital publicity or what are?
So we normally it's Google Maps. That's a lot of how people find us, and also there's also an app called Weed Maps, and those are the ones where we pretty much put a lot of our advertisements. Social media doesn't really allow cannabis to be posted, so we just use what we're allowed to at the moment.
I'd just like to add to that, there are state regulations as well that do regulate the types of advertisements and where they can be shown. So for example, if there's a certain percentage of folks that aren't going to be over 21 years of age, that's not even an acceptable medium. The idea is not for us to attract folks who don't know that there was a dispensary there, but we want to attract customers who are actually seeking out a dispensary and are aware of those marketing platforms that do exist for them.
Any other questions from the commissioners or comments? We will now open the public comments for this item. Secretary, please announce the instructions for public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on public hearing item number 6.3. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now. So it looks like we do not have anyone wishing to speak on this item that are physically present here. So we can go ahead and see if there's anyone in the chat line wishing to speak on this item. At this time, if you'd like to speak, you may press *6 to unmute yourself. And Chairperson, it looks like we do not have anybody in the chat line that is wishing to speak on this item. I also did want to mention for the record, we did receive one written comment and it was distributed to the Planning Commission.
If there's no objection by the Planning Commission, I will close public participation. And if there's no additional questions or comments by the Planning Commission, I will close the public hearing at 6:52 p.m.
If I may, Chair. So even when a public hearing is closed, commissioners are always free to talk. So you can just ask the chair to be recognized. And if you want to deliberate or say anything to each other, don't worry about the closed public hearing part.
I do have a
Just have
question.
one more
Oh, sorry.
question, and this is for you actually. You mentioned that the number of cannabis permits right now stands at 7. Can that number balloon later on in the future?
Currently, the limitation to business, Plum McAvoy with City Attorney's Office. Currently, the municipal code only permits 7 permits. So in order to provide more than that many permits, it would actually require an ordinance change. An ordinance change would come before your commission actually, let me correct myself. An ordinance change that deals with business regulatory permits would not actually come to your commission, but it would take a city council action. And the reason for that distinction, just so everybody's aware, is because the business regulatory permits are contained in a separate title of the municipal code. It's not a part of the zoning code. Planning Commission has jurisdiction to make recommendations as it relates to the zoning code, but this is actually in a wholly different part of the municipal code.
Thank you.
I do have a question for city staff. Basically, the distance between, I think there's another dispensary that was approved on Gage as well. I want to say, was it Steezy? There's 2.
Paloma McAvoy with City Attorney's Office. There are currently 2 other operators that have been approved on Gage.
And they're almost identical as far as the distance to the high school, or kind of, from what I recall. One of them at least, or to a school.
I'm not sure,
Okay.
off the top of my head, I'm not sure if staff has a better assessment, but I do believe they're on varying parts of Gage.
God, I think the one I'm referring to is where the Pizza Hut's at.
Yes, Associate Planning here, Adrian Flores. So that one is the previously approved Stizzy location. So that one is not within 600 foot in if any of the high schools or elementary schools. That study was done. I don't have the exact footage, but I could go ahead and get that for you if that's something you would need right now.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Thanks.
Has a crime impact analysis been conducted in regards to cannabis businesses within this jurisdiction?
Associate Planner Mona Mosiah, no, that analysis has not been conducted.
May I take another moment to explain something? So since we were talking about the number of cannabis businesses allowed, and we were talking about the role of the city council. So that's something that we'll cover in training, which is that the planning commission and the city council have different roles. The city council, they're the lawmakers. So they make the municipal code, which in this case is the regulations for cannabis businesses. Planning commission doesn't make laws. The planning commission applies the law as it is to a specific application. So that's the role here is making the findings for a particular case, not a big policy question of, you know, should there even be cannabis or that kind of thing. That's for the lawmakers. Thank you.
Associate Planner here, Adrian Flores. So as part of the location requirements study, we have two measurements. We have one measurement where it's 1,500-foot radius, and then the 600-foot radius versus the sensitive uses. Anything within the 1,500-foot radius is where we go ahead and determine the distance. So the only sensitive uses that were identified within the 1,500-foot radius from this Stizzy location was Marlow Park and Codella Preschool, which is approximately 1,350 feet away. That means that the high school and the elementary were not located within the 1,500-foot radius, but they were out of the 600-foot radius of the Stizzy location.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, because it was pretty close on the last vote, and this time around, there are concerns with regards to the radius and the locations around this new site. I'd like to get some more feedback from the people who abstained as well as denied the last item, if I can, just so that I can get an understanding of where you're at, your concerns and your thoughts. Of course, or anyone else, of course.
Hi, so for me, it's more about these sensitive areas, right? So we spoke about the Iglesia, that does the Sunday school. I know that in this area, since it is within two schools and two churches, you have a lot of foot traffic. You have hundreds of students walking a day through this area. That's just where I am, but I am curious to hear what the other commissioners are also thinking on this.
Yeah, to me, the only concern, obviously, it's close to the high school, but other than that, I'm also thinking about previous approvals that the commission had as well, right? So that's where my head at right now, just thinking of that, the previous approvals we had, and then just this situation right now.
The proximity to the high school, obviously, but also based on the information, there's a lot of just pigeonholes around security itself. It's not that concrete, shall we say.
Do you think that the previous applicant had a better understanding of what we expected out of security?
We need more information.
Associate Planner here. I also want to go ahead and share a map that was created among staff. This map will go ahead and identify the different applications received and the locations of each of the applications. This will identify the executed development agreement, approved development agreements, and of course the schedule for plan commissions and the other applications received, just to get a better idea of where all of these are located. The one in question is number 5 at the top, middle blue.
I think I understand the concerns of the location. I do think that it's like significantly closer, right? Than the other applicants, as well as you know, the foot traffic that they're gonna get of students in that location. Most students that go to the high school probably walk, you know, towards the, you know, what is it, south, right? Not north. So even though they're not advertising to our, you know, our youth, but you know, in a way, I feel like location is just really, really traffic, and you know, farming future customers is kind of a concern of mine because of the amount of the radius, really. What do you guys think about just the radius?
Well, oh, sorry, just with me too, like my thing right now is security as well, because you have high school students. I was a high school student myself, went to Bell Garden, especially that area. It's highly traffic and they tend to hang out in those spots. And there is a market in liquor, so I could see them just hanging out right there as well. So that's one of my concerns, but I would have to know more kind of Commissioner, sorry, Preciado, how you mentioned as well, like a little, I want to know a little bit more about security or a different plan in place. How would they handle the situation if there's students hanging out there, right?
Correct. The business can make itself invisible. It can wall itself in. It can bunker itself in, but everyone will know that it's still there. And that street, I mean, as a former BGHS student, I used to walk that street a lot, and students walk through there all the time, to and from. So it's there.
I'd like to motion to direct staff to gather findings for denial at this time. And bring back a resolution.
Paloma McAvoy with the City Attorney's Office. Point of clarification, Chair Ramirez, would the findings relate to the proximity to the schools and security?
Correct.
Thank you. Correct. The direction would mean that we would bring back a resolution at the next regularly scheduled planning commission. So for March.
I have a sec.
I second that.
Planning Secretary, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Monroy,
Yes.
Commissioner Preciado,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Barrera,
Yes.
and Chairperson Ramirez.
Yes. We will now begin with item number 6.4 on the agenda. At this time, I will open public hearing at 7:06 PM. May we please have the staff's report? Please, Mr. Jones.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. Stephen Jones, City Planner. The item is being requested to be continued so staff can gather more information to ensure we are in keeping and in line with the state's law for accessory dwelling units. So we're asking for a motion and second or action to continue to March 19th, 2025, which is the next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting.
Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
That would be a motion to approve what Mr. Jones described.
I second that.
Do we need okay, I can go ahead and take a roll call. So that would be Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Monroy,
Yes.
Commissioner Preciado,
Yes.
and Vice Chairperson Barrera,
Yes.
and Chairperson Ramirez.
Yes. We'll now move to the consent calendar. Does any member of the Planning Commission wish to pull an item for separate discussion?
Chairperson, if I may, I apologize. We skipped the public comment for items on the agenda.
I apologize.
No worries.
Public comment is now open for items listed in the Planning Commission agenda. Secretary, please announce the instructions for public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on agenda items. Please state your name for the record before addressing your comments to the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone, and when instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now. Seeing no comments, I will go ahead and see if there is anyone in the chat line wishing to speak on any items on the agenda. If so, you may go ahead and unmute yourself, or *6 to unmute yourself. It looks like we do have someone in the chat line, and I will go ahead and let them in. Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, hi. My name is Ana Castillo, and I actually do have a concern for the area. With bringing the shop here, how can we kind of guarantee, I guess, that the students are not going to have easier access to it? I know you said it's over 21, but as we know, being near to a school, they can have friends who are over that age. It might be easier and more accessible to them by having you so close to a school.
I'm sorry, may we know what item are you referring to? Is it this last item we just discussed?
Correct, is the last item, yes.
Okay, okay. So just so you're aware, there is a 3-minute time frame for your comment.
Yes, yes. So I was actually done with my comment and my question, like what can be done so that the students don't have easier access with them being within the limits of the school.
Understood. Do you have
So-
any other comments?
I don't.
And ma'am, during this time, we can only accept comments. We cannot answer any questions.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for your comment. Let me see if there's anyone else in the chat line wishing to speak. And it looks like we do not have anybody else in the chat line, Chairperson.
If there's no objection by planning commission, I will close the public participation for agendized items. We will now move to the consent calendar. Does any member of the planning commission wish to pull an item for separate discussion?
Maybe I'll explain what the consent is. Lloyd Pilchin. So whenever in the meeting we talk about the consent calendar or consent items, these are non-controversial, usually administrative things. One of the items tonight is staff giving an extension of time for a particular business. So these are things that when you look at the agenda before the meeting, if it's something that you have any questions or concerns about before voting, then you can pull the item out of the consent and then it can be discussed. But otherwise, the consent calendar, the consent agenda means they all get approved with one vote.
I'm gonna motion to approve items number 8.1 through 8.4. Can I get a second?
I second that.
Planning Secretary, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Sure, Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Monroy,
Yes.
Commissioner Preciado,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Barrera,
Yes.
and Chairperson Ramirez.
Yes. Update on ordinance amendment, amending Title 9 zoning and planning regulation to extend public noticing of zoning ordinance and amendments from 10 to 20 days in compliance with new state law. Do any members of the planning commission have any questions or comments? May I have a motion to approve staff's recommendations as noted in the staff report?
Motion to approve.
Second motion.
I second that.
Planning Secretary, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Monroy,
Yes.
Commissioner Preciado,
Yes.
Vice Chair Barrera,
Yes.
and Chairperson Ramirez.
Yes. Public comment is now open for items not listed on the planning commission agenda. Secretary, please announce the instructions for public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items not listed on the planning commission agenda. Please state your name for the record. Each speaker and written comments are limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to make a comment may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to make a comment by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from members of the public that are physically present in the council chambers. If you haven't done so already, please submit your comment cards now. Looks like there are no comments. And we will now go ahead and go into the chat line to see if there is anyone wishing to speak on any item not listed on the planning commission agenda. And it looks like we do not have anybody in the chat line, Chairperson.
If there's no objection by the planning commission, I will close the public comments for non-agenda items. Do we have any staff comments or commission or staff comments at this time?
Yes, Chair. Thank you. I do have some, and good evening, Honorable Chair and Commissioner. Stephen Jones, City Planner for the Community Development Department Planning Division. We also have our Deputy City Manager and Community Development Director Romo here, so I will be brief before I turn it over to him. This item is an opportunity for me to share updates on community projects and community matters upon which the Commission will at some point decide or advise. First is the Climate Action Plan. To give you an update, there's a community survey available, and your input, as well as all the residents, is effective, or will be effective if we get it. So we want to make sure that the community is aware of the opportunity to take the survey, and it is online, and it can be accessed by going to the website bellgardens.org/CAP survey or CAP for the survey to contribute in a sustainable future for Bell Gardens. And then also we have the transit-oriented community plan that's underway. Kimley Horn and Associates has joined the Recreation and Community Services Department at various events, most recently the Resident Art and Yard Sale, to receive public input leading up to the development of a transit-oriented community-specific plan, the city's first, and zoning code update. So community input is also needed for that. Surveys are available at bellgardens.org, and they can visit the Community Development Department website to access that. The 2 events scheduled for February include on the 24th, consultant staff will be conducting an intercept survey on the corners of Florence and Garfield Avenues. And on the 27th, a virtual open house will occur on Zoom. Those links and opportunities can be available also on, or seen, observed on our website. The connection information is available at bellgardens.org. And also we have recently released, just for your information, marketing materials request for proposals. This will help the city seek new and professional consultant services for help with updating the community marketing materials for business attraction and retention. So that's available on our RFPs bids website page as well. And then the staff is always looking for ways to make the website more accessible and information gathering simpler for community members to know what Blueprint for Development means in this community. The website was recently updated to provide a streamlined opportunity for the establishment of accessory dwelling units. That just means that the state required that we offer a program for folks to be able to use templates for accessory dwelling units. And what we've done is release the opportunity for qualified design professionals to use the website to file their plans with us, and they'll be available for residents and property owners to use should they so choose, with licensing and permissions. But it should streamline an already very streamlined process, but streamline the building permit issuance process for accessory dwelling units in the community. And again, that's a state compliant law that we are now compliant with as of this week. So this concludes city planner staff comments. And again, we have our deputy city manager available here as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. What I wanted to say to the commission is congratulations on having a full commission again. So we now have 5 members. I know it was tough for a while there for a couple of months. So we're glad to be back on track. And for those of you that are new, I think you're going to enjoy this process very much. I know all of you are very supportive of one another. So I look forward to you building your own team here and continuing to serve the city of Bell Gardens. So I'd like to just update you on the rent stabilization and eviction protection program and the ordinance that we have. We continue to have our monthly workshops. We have them once a month for the tenants on Tuesdays, the third Tuesday of the month, and for property owners on Wednesday. So we just had one today at 4 o'clock. And ultimately, those are available virtually and in person. So please spread the word. Anyone out there that wants to know more about their rights, both property owners and tenants, invite them to come to our workshops. They are posted on our website and in social media. But of course, they don't need to wait for those workshops. They can always come see our housing staff anytime. And also want to let you know, we are now fully staffed. We hired our new code enforcement officer. And ultimately, our housing staff is now 5 members. So we have a total of 16 people in our community development department. We are a little tight. We're looking for ways to improve that, creating more cubicles, but we're going to get there. Also want to let you know that our Citizen Serve company that does our permitting land use management system. This is new software that we went after and we got. We're about maybe, I would say 80% there. Our planning team now has an ability to take in applications, online. And we're also working with our housing department with all rental registration being done online. The last divisions that we're going to be doing is the building division and our code enforcement division. A little bit tougher because we also need to get the hardware for it. But again, we're about 80% there. Hopefully by the end of this year, it will be fully automated. So any developer, any resident out there that wants to do things through the community development department can do it online as opposed to having to come in physically. But again, the option is always there to come in physically. And the last, I'd just like to report on our CalHome grant. We're going after the 3rd phase. As you're aware, the city received over the last 5 years 2 grants for first-time homeowner assistance and also for existing homeowner rehab. And I've seen people using these for accessory dwelling units too. So we've got quite a few ADUs that are being built here in the city of Bell Gardens. So we encourage you to tell your neighbors that we have this program available to take advantage of it. I know it's a little tough with the inventory out there, not a lot of houses for sale. And those that are for sale, people are paying $1 million for. But again, the money's there and we don't want to have to give this money back. So if people can come in and go after these homes, and they're available for mobile homes as well, for townhomes, doesn't have to be a single family home. So please spread the word and we'll help you through the process too. And that's all I had. Thank you.
I have a question with the last thing you mentioned, because it was pointed out to me. What's the minimum income in order to qualify?
There is a set criteria that you have to be at. I don't know the actual qualifications because it's all on a case-by-case basis.
Got it.
And also it depends on the cost of the home. The maximum that you can purchase right now is 650,000. What we're going to be working on is increasing that price because you can't get much for 650,000 here in Bell Gardens.
Got it.
So yes.
And for rehab, the same thing. There's probably an
There
requirement.
is. There's a level that you cannot go above, but it also depends on your household. It's different for a family of 2 than it is for a family of 5, for instance.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner comments?
I guess I could kick it off first. So first of all, congratulations. Chair Commissioner Ramirez and Vice Chair Barrera, and also want to welcome the new commissioners. Kind of proud of our meeting today. I didn't know what to expect. These are tough sometimes, right? But we acted like professionals. Not only we treated each other like professionals, the city staff, but also most importantly, the public out there. So that's a win to me. And also, I always say the same thing. I just thankful for the city staff for all the work that they do. And in this case, I don't think I've said this before, but I truly mean that to the attorneys. Thank you for all your guidance, because you save us all the time, all the time, and we don't thank you enough. So thank you both.
Yeah, I do want to thank each one of you commissioners and vice chair for the opportunity. It's a privilege to be able to work with all of you and represent our city and look out for it in the best way that we can. I hope we can facilitate each other and engaging in conversation on these difficult sometimes topics. And I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Yeah, I already gave a brief intro about myself at the beginning, but I'm happy that I got to see everybody here today, and thank to everybody who showed up today, to staff and to legal as well. Also, I know it wasn't mentioned, but in March we do have the 5K marathon as well. That's happening. I'll be participating. I'll try to run, but hope to see more faces out there participating. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Any other comments this time? No. If there's no objection by the members, I will now adjourn the regular planning commission meeting at 7:26 p.m.